Let's make some homemade yeast rolls. Alexa, turn down. It's a little loud, don't you think? Okay, this is gonna be a big batch. I am making about 10 dozen yeast rolls today. We'll see how many this makes. I'm probably gonna make this batch twice. If there's extra, we'll put them in the freezer for next week. Okay, let's go. We're gonna start with 4 cups of warm water. You want it to be warm, not too hot, not too cold. That's kind of your challenge there because you want your yeast to grow. You don't want to kill it with hot water. You don't want to understimulate it with cold water. So lukewarm water, okay? I would normally put 4 packets of yeast, but I have my jarred yeast. So I am going to put 8 teaspoons. Help me count. 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't get confused. 6, 7, 8. Seems like a lot, doesn't it? Each packet of yeast has 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. So I did these heavy teaspoons to account for that quarter. It'll be enough, I promise. All right, to that I'm gonna add about 2 teaspoons of salt. I am one of those that I measure with my heart and my hands and memory. I've done these things for so long that it's kind of second nature. Okay, that's enough salt. Then I want to put about 2/3 of a cup of sugar in this batch. Gotta have sugar in your yeast rolls. I'm sorry, I know there's no calories on Thanksgiving. We'll just go with that lie, okay? I don't lie, but that one makes you feel better about yourself somehow. Okay, give it a little bit of a toss here. And not everybody goes ahead and puts their salt in at this step. You can or cannot, whichever you prefer. I just do. There we go. I'm gonna let that set for a few minutes. And what it will do is it will begin to foam. If it starts to look milky and foamy, you know your yeast is alive. If it looks, I need to turn this down a little bit. If it continues to look exactly like that, your yeast isn't alive, throw it out. Gotta start over, go get some new yeast, or you will have done all of this in vain and wasted all of your efforts. The sugar feeds the yeast. It helps it to come alive and to get a full tummy and make it swell up. You know how your belly swells up at Thanksgiving? The sugar makes the yeast begin to swell up, which makes the gluten activate in the bread, and you don't need a science lesson. Just trust me. I'll be right back. All right, I don't know, can you see that it's starting to bubble in the center? And as I watch it, you can see little pieces start popping up. That means my yeast is alive. We're on the right track here. So let's review. 4 cups of lukewarm water from the tap. We have a 1/2 cup of sugar, 4 packets of yeast, or about 8 teaspoons, 2 1/4 teaspoons per packet. We have 2 teaspoons of salt. I said the 1/2 cup sugar. Oh, look at that, it's getting all foamy. We're good. Can you see? See, it's all foamy on top. This is a happy yeast, I can tell. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do is add 1 stick of butter, a 1/2 cup of butter. And this is gonna, you know, help it. It's at room temperature, but being in this warm water, it's gonna help it get all melty and nice. I am going to add a couple of eggs, but I'm gonna make sure it's not warm enough to cook my eggs, right? So my mixer is a KitchenAid. It's a professional brand, 600, so it doesn't have the lid that lifts up. The motor, actually, not lid. And my bowl rises. Okay, I'm gonna start off by putting about, I'm gonna go ahead and put about 2 cups in here and just of all-purpose flour. And then I will add my eggs. I don't want to cook my eggs in the warm water, right? I don't think it's warm enough to cook them, but who wants to take that chance? Not me. I've been burnt before on things like that where I thought I was okay and wasn't. The kitchen is a great place to learn, isn't it? You want to turn it on the lowest speed or you'll have flour up in your face and your hair and everywhere. There we go. The butter's melting nicely. Just give it a little mixy mix. Yeah, that's not gonna cook the eggs. Let's add a couple eggs. have to be sure of yourself to crack your egg right over what you're cooking, because if an eggshell goes in there, it'd be hard to find in this. Okay, I'm gonna add 2 more cups of flour, because this is gonna take somewhere between 10 and probably about 12 cups of flour for this. So there's 4. And we're just gonna keep mixing until I get a soft dough. I'll show you what that looks like. Right, I have about 10 cups of flour in my dough. It's soft, really soft. I'm gonna add more flour, and I know that. But I want to do it by hand, because you can, in a pinch, get too much in your dough and make it too dense and too heavy, and it won't rise. So let me get this ready to put out onto the mat. Okay, this is my favorite part of being in the kitchen. I love to bake bread. I love to knead bread. I put a cup out here. I'm gonna take my wedding rings off and set them over there. And so I put a nice, about a cup of flour out here, because I know I'm gonna need it. This is too wet, and I know that. It's very soft. And some people would have probably added another cup of the flour, but I wanna get my hands in here. This is holiday for me. This makes me feel like it's holiday. I'm not sure where my love of bread making came. You know, I've told you all before, my mom always said we only had a kitchen because it came with the house. And I don't ever remember Mom making any kind of bread. So it didn't come from her, and honestly, I can't think of my grandma's either making any bread, so I don't know. And it's very sticky right now, and that's okay. I know that it is. I've got flour here to bring it in. It'll all come together, I promise. Some of you bread bakers are saying, oh, you should have already put more flour in it. No, I shouldn't have. It's good. See how that's all coming together so beautifully. And you just keep working it and working that flour. So I would say altogether, this has had about, I'd say about 11 cups of flour. Yep. And I'll probably keep adding a little bit. It's coming together just about right. I went to stop my filming, and so you don't have to sit here and watch me do this. But my hands are so sticky, I don't know how to stop. Oh, do you make bread? Do you remember where you learned? Do you know how to knead dough? Do you know why we need the dough? We're stimulating the gluten in the flour, and that is what causes it to rise. And if it doesn't rise, it's just like a hockey puck. Have you ever had rolls that were not light and fluffy? Not good. And I think when you do this enough, you kind of know the touch. You don't want it to be sticky, but it's got to be soft or it won't rise the way you want it to. This is perfect. I have Christmas music behind me. I have you all in front of me. All my kids are at school. They're having their parties today for Thanksgiving. My husband teaches at our school on Fridays, teaches computer coding. So, guess who's home by herself? That doesn't happen very often. And I'm okay with that. I love all my peoples. But it's nice to be in here just doing something I enjoy without any interruption and just thinking big thoughts. Making a mess. I'll have to sweep and mop the kitchen later. That's okay. I like to have a clean kitchen. Yeah, it's coming together nice. Then we're going to put this in an oiled bowl. and let it double in size about an hour. Let me show you when it gets in the bowl. Okay, I have my dough all smooth. What you want to do is when you push in with 2 fingers, it needs to bounce back. That lets you know you've activated your gluten. You can do 2 things. You could just put a lid over this and let it rise, or you can oil your bowl and put it in your oven. Because I'm fortunate enough to have 2 ovens, I've turned the bottom oven on warm, and I'm just gonna shut it off, and that makes a nice, cozy little den for this to rise in for about an hour until it's doubled in size.